John was a man who had seen much in his life. He was now in his late 70s, but the memories of his youth and service in the military stayed with him clearly. Many years ago, John had joined the army during a time when his country was at war. He had been young, strong, and full of hope to protect his nation and its people. Now, many years later, he lived a quiet life in a small town. Far from the battlefields he once knew, John's home was simple but filled with reminders of his past. On the walls hung old photographs of his army days, showing young soldiers standing proudly in uniform. There were medals and badges that told stories of bravery and honor. Though he rarely spoke about the war, John carried the weight of those experiences deep inside him. The town where John lived was peaceful, but it had a strong connection to the military. Many families had members who served in the armed forces. Every year, the town held a special ceremony to honor soldiers, both past and present. This year, the event was even more important because the Royal Guard, an elite group known for their discipline and pride, was coming to march through the streets. John heard about the upcoming ceremony from his neighbors and the local news. The thought of the Royal Guard coming brought a mix of feelings to his heart. He remembered the soldiers he had fought beside, the hardships they faced, and the courage they showed every day. The idea of seeing a parade of soldiers again made him feel connected to those memories. It was as if a part of his youth was coming back to life. As the day of the ceremony approached, John prepared himself carefully. Even though he was no longer in the army, he still wanted to show respect for the tradition. He put on a clean shirt and polished his old leather shoes. His movements were slow but steady, showing the discipline that had been part of his life. For so long, when the morning of the ceremony arrived, John walked to the town square. The streets were busy with people who had come to watch the Royal Guard. Children held small flags, and families stood together, waiting in quiet excitement. The air was filled with a mix of joy and respect, a reminder of the importance of honoring those who serve. John found a place near the front, close to where the Royal Guard would march. He stood tall, even though his body was old. His spirit felt strong. Around him, other veterans also gathered. Some wore caps or badges from their own service, and many exchanged quiet nods and smiles. It was a gathering of people who shared a special bond, even if years had passed since their time in uniform. As the Royal Guard appeared, the crowd fell silent. The soldiers wore bright uniforms with polished boots and shining helmets. They moved with perfect precision, their steps in time with the music played by the military band. John watched carefully, his eyes filled with memories and pride. Among the guards was a young soldier who caught John's attention. The young man looked confident but calm, his face serious as he focused on the march. John saw in him the same determination and hope that he had once carried. It reminded John of the first time he put on his uniform, feeling proud to serve his country. As the Royal Guard passed by, John raised his hand in a salute. It was a simple gesture, but full of meaning. It was a way to honor the soldiers who stood before him and to remember those who were no longer there. The salute came from the heart, a silent message of respect and gratitude. The young guard noticed John's salute. For a moment, he stopped and returned the gesture with the same honor. That brief exchange between the old veteran and the young soldier was powerful. It connected to different generations, showing the respect that passes from one to another. People in the crowd watched quietly. Some had tears in their eyes, moved by the scene. It was more than just a parade. It was a moment that reminded everyone of the sacrifices made for freedom and peace. John felt a warmth in his chest, knowing that the tradition of respect and honor was still alive. After the parade, John stayed to talk with other veterans and members of the Royal Guard. They thanked him for his service, and John shared stories of his own experiences. The event brought a sense of community and remembrance that touched everyone there. The town's mayor announced plans to make the ceremony an annual event. Inspired by the powerful moment between John and the Royal Guard, the story spread beyond the town. Reminding people everywhere about the importance of honoring those who serve, John returned home that evening feeling peaceful. The salute he gave was a small act, but it had a big meaning. It showed that respect for the past and hope for the future could live together. For John, the ceremony was more than a tradition. It was a reminder that courage, honor, and sacrifice never fade with. The day of the Royal Guard ceremony arrived, with bright sunshine and clear blue skies. The town was alive with excitement. People of all ages gathered early to find good spots along the streets. Many had brought cameras or phones to capture the moment. Flags waved gently in the light breeze, and the sound of children laughing mixed with the soft murmur of conversations. The atmosphere was joyful but also respectful, as everyone knew this event was special. John arrived at the town square. With a quiet determination, though his steps were slower than before, his heart beat with a strong feeling of pride. He wore his old military jacket, the one he had kept carefully for many years. It was worn at the edges, but still looked dignified. When he walked, he noticed some people nodding at him or whispering, recognizing a veteran among the crowd. Near the square, the Royal Guard was preparing for the march. The guards were young men and women, standing tall in their red and black uniforms. Their helmets shone in the sunlight, and their boots were polished to a bright finish. They practiced their steps carefully, making sure every movement was perfect. The officers gave quiet orders, and the soldiers listened with attention. For them, this ceremony was a chance to show respect and honor their country's history. John's eyes followed the young soldiers as they lined up. He remembered the years when he was part of a similar group, training hard and learning the discipline needed for service. The memories came back clearly, the early mornings, the tough drills, and the feeling of belonging to something bigger than himself. Now, he was watching a new generation carry the same spirit forward. As the band began to play, the Royal Guard stepped into the street with perfect timing. Their feet hit the ground in rhythm, and the music filled the air with a steady beat. John felt a deep connection to the sound. It was like a language of courage and pride that spoke directly to his heart. The soldiers marched past the crowd, their faces serious and focused. Each one carried the weight of responsibility with quiet dignity. Among them, John spotted the young soldier who had caught his attention the day before. The man looked straight ahead, but John could see the same strength and calm determination he had known in his own youth. The crowd watched in silence as the parade continued. Some people held their hands over their hearts, others whispered prayers or thanks. The ceremony was more than just a show. It was a moment to remember the sacrifices made by countless men and women who served in the military. When the young guard came near John's place in the crowd, John raised his hand in a salute. It was steady and respectful, a gesture full of meaning. The young soldier stopped for a brief moment and returned the salute. Their eyes met, and in that instant, words were not needed. The salute was a bridge between the past and the present, a shared understanding of honor and duty. The crowd around them felt the power of the moment. Some people's eyes filled with tears as they witnessed the connection between the veteran and the young guard. The silence that followed was deep and respectful, as if everyone was holding their breath to honor what they had seen. After the guard passed, the ceremony continued with speeches from local leaders. They spoke about the importance of remembering history and supporting those who serve today. John listened quietly, feeling proud that the town cared so much about its veterans. The Royal Guard then performed a formal salute to the flag, their movements sharp and precise. John watched closely, remembering how important these traditions had been during his time in service. The ceremony was a reminder that, even though the world changes, some values stay strong and true. After the formal part of the event ended, people began to gather in small groups. John joined other veterans, sharing stories and smiles. Many thanked him for his service, and he felt a warm sense of community. The young guard who had saluted him earlier came over and introduced himself. They spoke briefly about their experiences and the honor of serving their country. The local newspaper reporters took pictures and interviewed some of the attendees. They wanted to share the story of the veterans' salute and the emotional response it created. Soon the story began to spread beyond the town, touching the hearts of people who understood the meaning of sacrifice and respect. As the crowd slowly started to leave, John stayed behind for a moment. He looked at the empty street where the parade had just passed. In his heart, he felt a mix of sadness and hope. Sadness for the friends he had lost in the past, but hope for the future that the young soldiers represented. John knew that the salute he gave was not just for the soldiers marching that day. It was for all those who had served before him and for those who would serve after. It was a reminder that honor and respect never fade, even as time moves on. Walking back to his home, John felt a quiet joy. The ceremony had brought something special into his life, a feeling that his past, present, and future were connected in a meaningful way. He looked forward to telling his family about the day and to watching the town continue to honor its heroes in the years to come. It was a living story of courage, duty, and respect, a story that John was proud to be a part of. The moment when the young royal guard returned, John's salute stayed in the hearts of many people who were watching. It was a simple action, but it carried a deep meaning. To John, it was more than a gesture. It was a sign that the respect between soldiers did not disappear with time, showed that the past and the present were connected through honor. As the young guard slowly lowered his hand after the salute, his eyes met John's for a few seconds longer than expected. Both men understood something without words. The young guard saw a living example of sacrifice, courage, and years of service. John saw hope for the future in the young man's steady gaze and strong posture. The people around them felt a wave of emotion. Some veterans in the crowd wiped tears from their eyes. Families held hands tightly, moved by the scene. It was as if the whole town was sharing a moment of silent gratitude and remembrance. Many had family members who served or were serving now, so the salute reminded them of the price of peace. Nearby, a few children who had been watching curiously asked their parents about the meaning of the salute. Parents explained gently that it was a way soldiers show respect to each other. It was a sign of trust, bravery, and honor that passes from one generation to the next. The children listened quietly, feeling proud to be part of a community that cared so much for its heroes. John stayed standing, feeling a warm glow inside him. Though his body was tired from years of hard work and age, his spirit felt alive. This moment was a healing one. For many years he had carried memories of the battlefield, some happy, some painful. Seeing the young guard return, his salute was a reminder that his service mattered and was remembered. After the royal guard finished their march, the ceremony continued with a moment of silence. The crowd bowed their heads to honor all who had served and sacrificed for the country. John thought of friends he had lost and the long nights filled with worry and hope. The silence was filled with respect and deep emotion. Then, the local mayor stepped forward to speak. His voice was calm and sincere. He thanked the veterans for their courage and dedication. He spoke about how important it was for the town to remember those who served and to support the soldiers of today. John listened carefully, feeling proud that his community held these values close. The mayor also spoke about the significance of the Royal Guard and their role in protecting the country's traditions. He praised the young soldiers for their discipline and commitment. John thought about how different the world was now, but how these values stayed the same. After the speeches, the ceremony moved to a more relaxed part. People began to talk and smile again. John found himself surrounded by fellow veterans and town members. They shared stories of their service, family, and the importance of remembering the past. Many told John how much the salute had moved them. The young guard who had returned John's salute approached him. He introduced himself as Michael, a soldier new to the Royal Guard. Michael told John that his salute had been a meaningful moment for him. He said it reminded him why he chose to serve and why honoring veterans was so important. John shared memories of his time in service, the challenges he faced, and the friends he had made. Michael listened. With respect and curiosity, he talked about how service shapes a person's life and the bonds it creates. Nearby, photographers and reporters took pictures and recorded the event. They wanted to capture the powerful moment between the veteran and the young guard. The story quickly spread beyond the town, reaching people who understood the true meaning of respect and sacrifice. As the ceremony ended, John felt a strong sense of connection. The salute had bridged years of history and brought people together. It reminded everyone that honoring those who serve was not just about ceremonies, but about caring for each other. Walking away from the event, John thought about the future. He hoped that young people like Michael would carry the values of courage and respect forward. He believed that by remembering the past, the town could build a better future. That day, John felt a peace he hadn't felt in a long time. The simple act of a salute had brought new meaning to his life. It showed him that no matter how much time passes, the spirit of service and honor lives on in every generation. The tearful scene that began with a salute became a story of hope and unity. It showed that even in quiet towns, the power of respect and gratitude could bring people together and inspire them to honor the past while looking forward to the future. After the ceremony, John felt a quiet pride as he walked through the town. The streets were still filled with people who were talking about the special moment that had happened. Many people came up to John to thank him for his service and to tell him how much the salute had touched their hearts. Some shared their own stories of family members who had served in the military, and others simply smiled with respect and gratitude. John was invited to meet with the Royal Guard officers, who had led the parade. They spoke to him with great respect, recognizing the importance of his presence and his salute. They thanked him for his many years of service and told him that his salute had reminded them all why they had chosen to serve. John listened quietly, feeling deeply honored by their words. The local newspaper and a few television reporters arrived to interview John and some of the other veterans. They wanted to share the story of the veterans' salute and the emotional reaction it caused. John was a little shy, but spoke honestly about what the salute meant to him, said it was a way to honor the past and to connect with the future. The reporters praised John for his courage and for showing that respect and honor are values that last a lifetime. The story spread quickly beyond the town. It appeared in newspapers and on news websites across the country. Many people wrote letters and messages to John, thanking him for reminding them of the sacrifices made by soldiers. Some shared their own memories and said they were inspired by the salute. John was surprised by the attention, but happy that the message of respect was reaching so many. As days passed, John began to reflect more deeply on what had happened. He thought about the young soldier who had returned his salute and how meaningful that simple gesture had been. John realized that the salute was more than just a military tradition. It was a way to keep the bond between generations alive. It showed that no matter how much time passes, the sacrifices of those who served are never forgotten. John also thought about the community. He felt proud that the town had come together to honor veterans and to celebrate the values of courage and respect. He believed that the ceremony had brought people closer and helped them appreciate the importance of remembering history. Inspired by the event, the town's leaders began planning new ways to honor veterans. They wanted to create more opportunities for people to learn about the sacrifices made by soldiers and to support those who were serving today. John was invited to join a committee that would help organize future ceremonies and events. He accepted, feeling that this was a way to continue his service in a new form. John's family was proud of him too. His children and grandchildren listened closely as he shared stories from his past. They asked questions and showed great respect for his experiences. John realized that by sharing his history, he was helping his family understand the meaning of service and sacrifice. He hoped that they, too, would carry these values forward. The community also started to see the importance of teaching younger generations about respect and honor. Schools invited veterans to speak to students, and local clubs organized visits to military museums. John sometimes took part in these activities, sharing his story with young people. He found joy in seeing their interest and pride grow. The salute between John and the young Royal Guard became a symbol for the town. It was a reminder that the past and present are linked by shared values. It encouraged people to honor those who serve and to support each other in times of peace and difficulty. John felt a renewed sense of purpose. Even though he was no longer in uniform, he was still part of a larger story. His salute had helped keep that story alive. He understood that honoring veterans was not just about ceremonies or parades. It was about respect, gratitude, and community. As the weeks went by, John continued to attend events and speak with people who were inspired by his salute. He knew that his small act had made a big difference. It had reminded people of the courage and sacrifice that build strong communities and keep nations free. John's heart was full. The ceremony had given him hope and strength. It showed him that even after many years, his service mattered. The respect he received and the connections he made were a powerful gift. He looked forward to the future, knowing that the values he cherished would live on in the hearts of many. In the quiet moments at home, John often thought back to the day of the ceremony. The salute, the tears, the smiles, they all stayed with him. They were a reminder that honor is timeless, and respect is the greatest legacy a person can leave behind. Through the simple act of a salute, John had sparked a tearful scene that touched a community and inspired a nation. It was a story of courage, respect, and the deep bond between those who serve and those who remember. After the ceremony and all the attention it brought, John's life began to change in small but meaningful ways. The salute he gave to the royal guard had become a symbol in the town. People talked about it often, and it inspired many to think about the importance of honoring veterans and the sacrifices they made. John found himself invited to speak at schools, community centers, and special events. Each time, he shared his story with a humble heart and a clear message. Respect and honor are treasures that keep communities strong. The town decided to create a special day every year to remember veterans and to celebrate their courage. This event was inspired by the powerful moment of the salute and the feelings it stirred in everyone who witnessed it. John was honored to be part of the planning group that organized this event. He worked alongside other veterans and community leaders to create a ceremony that would bring people together and teach younger generations about the importance of service. John's family noticed how proud he was to be involved. His grandchildren listened eagerly when he talked about his military days and the recent ceremony. They asked many questions and showed respect for his experiences. John felt happy knowing that his family would carry on the values of honor and courage. It was important to him that these lessons would live on through them. As the new annual event grew, more people joined to support veterans. Local schools included lessons about military history and the meaning of service. The town built a small memorial in the park with names of soldiers who had served from the community. Families visited the memorial often, especially on the special day. John sometimes sat nearby, feeling peaceful as he watched others remember and honor their loved ones. John also stayed close with the Royal Guard, especially with Michael, the young soldier who had returned his salute. They kept in touch through letters and visits. Michael told John about his training and duties, and John offered advice and encouragement. Their friendship was a bridge between generations, showing that respect and support could last a lifetime. The community's response to John's salute reminded him how important it was to connect the past with the present. He believed that remembering history was not only about honoring those who served, but also about learning lessons for the future. The values of courage, respect, and sacrifice were lessons that everyone could benefit from, no matter their age. One day, as John sat quietly in his home, he thought about the journey he had been on. From the battlefields of his youth to the peaceful streets of his town, he had seen many changes. Yet the simple salute he gave to a young soldier had brought new meaning to his life and to his community. It was a reminder that even small actions can have a powerful impact. John felt grateful for the support and kindness he had received. He knew that he was not alone in his feelings. Many veterans had stories of sacrifice and courage that were waiting to be shared. He hoped that the ceremony and the salute would encourage others to tell their stories and to keep the spirit of honor alive. As the sun set on the town one evening, John looked out his window with a calm heart. He knew that the salute was more than a memory. It was a lasting symbol of unity and respect. The connection between him and the young royal guard was a gift that brought hope to many. John's story was a quiet reminder that honoring those who serve is a community effort. It requires remembering, respecting, and passing on the values that make a nation strong. Through his salute, John had touched hearts and inspired change. His legacy was one of courage, dignity, and the power of respect. The town continued to hold its annual ceremony, and each year, more people gathered to celebrate veterans. New generations learned about the importance of service and sacrifice. Old John watched with pride as the spirit of honor lived on, knowing that his small act had helped light the way in the end. John understood that the true meaning of his salute was the lasting bond it created, a bond between the past and the future, between those who served and those who remember. It was a simple, powerful reminder that respect never fades and that courage is always worth honoring.